Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good morning and welcome to this webinar titled Building Bridges Through Green Transition. Today's event is a collaboration between the Embassy of Finland in Oslo, Innovation Norway Arctic, and the Arctic Frontiers. My name is Anu Fredriksson, and I'm the Executive Director of Arctic Frontiers. It is my pleasure today to be the moderator and guide you through. Increased attention towards climate change and its impact in the Arctic have accelerated the calls for carbon neutrality and green transition. Today, we will shed light on the business's role on green transition. We will start our program with high-level introductions from Finland and from Norway. Then the first part of our discussion will focus on circular economy and battery development. We will also shed light on a good example of regional collaboration between Finland and Norway. And before concluding, we will have a short session focusing on the development of green hydrogen. Now, a few practicalities. We would have very much liked to welcome you to join us with us at the Embassy of Finland in Oslo, but unfortunately the current situation with COVID-19 and the restrictions did not enable that. Therefore, we will have this program online, but we strive to make this interactive. We have a great lineup of speakers, and we would like to propose you the opportunity to pose them questions. You can send your questions by email to my colleague Mari Nilsson to mari@arcticfrontiers.com. Her email address will also be visible on the screen throughout the program. And when sending in your questions, please state your name and your affiliation and keep your questions brief. Thank you. Our first speaker today is Mr. Ville Skinnari, Minister for Development Cooperation and Foreign Trade of Finland. Before becoming a member of parliament in 2015, Minister Skinnari worked within international business life and international trade. He is a specialist in international law, but he also has a background as an entrepreneur. He is also known as a true friend of the Arctic. Minister Skinnari, we are very pleased that you have been able to join us today through a video greeting. The screen is yours.
Mr. Almlid, Mrs. Fredriksson, representatives of the Norwegian and Finnish businesses, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pleased to open this Building Bridges Through Green Transition webinar today. I wish to express my warmest thanks to all organizers for bringing so many key stakeholders together in this virtual event. Today, I have three particular points I wish to make in my opening remarks. The first one is Corona pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought us huge challenges, but we can come out of the crisis stronger and more resilient by focusing on the right things in our recovery strategies. Our Nordic slogan, Build Back Better and Greener, reflects our spirit perfectly. My second point is that Norway and Finland are natural partners in promoting green transition. We complement each other and have notable business cooperation already in motion. Let us get inspired by the examples we will hear later today. And my third point, that is the Arctic. The Arctic is high on the agenda in both of our countries. We all know that our northern parts are not remote areas of wilderness, but places with people, businesses, and opportunities for green transition. Our two countries have all the preconditions to ensure economic development in the north in a manner that preserves the nature and involves its inhabitants, including indigenous peoples. Starting from my first point, Finland and Norway have what it takes to turn this crisis into an opportunity through digitalization and green transition. Our toolboxes are filled with elements which allow us to show leadership, even at the global level, in the pursuit for a sustainable future. To give some examples of our similarities, ladies and gentlemen, we are both deeply committed to fight the climate change. We are stable societies with highly educated people and well-functioning institutions. We have top-level technologies, access to renewable energy, and well-developed systems for R&D financing. And on the top of that, we both have cutting-edge companies working in full gear to find solutions to our big challenges, including the climate change. A good example is the Digital Game Changer Task Force, a group appointed by the Confederation of Finnish Industries, which recently published its priorities for the post-COVID-19 era. This group is composed of Finland's leading companies in their respective fields with a clear message saying that the future is greener. According to the task force, Finland's competitive advantage lie in the fields of carbon neutrality, industrial 5G, cybersecurity, digital ways of working and healthcare, and autonomous and green shipping. I can only agree with the task force as the list reflects well our strong points and is perfectly in line with our ambitious climate policy. In paving the way forward, there is a lot of potential for fruitful cooperation between Finland and Norway. We have complementary skills and technologies in a number of important areas. By working together, we can be stronger not only at home, but also internationally. We all know that Norway is a leading country in electrifying transport and industry. Finland, on the other hand, is strong in solutions in bio and circular economy, such as biofuels, biogas, LNG, and LBG. And we are also putting a lot of effort in developing so-called Power X solutions. We already have good examples of prominent Finnish-Norwegian business cooperation in green transition, such as Fortum and the city of Oslo working together in waste-to-energy CCS projects, and Varanger Kraft and Wärtsilä cooperating in a hydrogen project in northern Norway. We also have new Arctic railway connection between Narvik and Hefei in China, operated by the Finnish company Nurminen Logistics. In sum, we have a lot to gain by working together. I expect to see many more win-win proposals in the future. Finally, I would like to say a couple of words about the Arctic. Both Finland and Norway are finalizing their Arctic strategies. I would like to thank our Norwegian colleagues for good cooperation in devising the strategies together. Sustainable development will be a cross-cutting theme throughout Finland's strategy. All activities in the Arctic must be based on nature's carrying capacity, climate protection, and the principles of sustainable development, as well as respect for the rights of indigenous peoples. At the same time, it is important to remember that a significant part of our population live above the polar circle, needing jobs, infrastructure, services, and education. Especially now when tourism has been hit hard by the pandemic, it is so important that we focus on creating new jobs and new businesses in the area. The Arctic offers great opportunities for renewable energy solutions, for bio and circular economy, and new logistics routes. Our two countries have what it takes to ensure sustainable development in a manner that preserves the fragile nature of the North and involves its inhabitants, including indigenous peoples. Our Arctic strategies will be out shortly. It is vital that we continue our close cooperation in the Arctic and in other matters also in the future. With these words, I would like to end my remarks. I wish you all fruitful seminar. Thank you so much. Kiitos paljon. Stort tack. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, Minister Skinnari. It was a great pleasure having you join us today. Since March this year, our next speaker has been at the core of discussions related on COVID-19 relief packages and business development here in Norway. But already before that, he and the organization he leads went at the forefront when it comes to green transition. The simple reason behind it is that it is a necessity, but that it also makes business sense. We are very pleased to have with us Ole Erik Omlet, Managing Director of the Confederation of Norwegian Enterprise. Ole Erik, we look forward to hearing from the NHO. The screen is yours.
Hello everyone, and thank you to Arctic Frontier for the opportunity to talk to you today about green transition and Nordic cooperation. We live in a difficult and historic time. People across the world are fighting for their health, and businesses are struggling to keep the businesses floating because of the pandemic and the restrictions it brings. We must fight together to keep businesses afloat through the pandemic. At the same time, we must plan for future job and value creation. The need for job and value creation was great before the pandemic struck. Now it's even greater. In August, NHO launched our roadmap for the business community of the future. In the roadmap, we have an action plan for job creation, and our message is clear. The jobs and businesses of the future are greener, more digital, and more international. For a small, open, and export-oriented economy like the Norwegian, international markets and cooperation is very important. We can not be world leaders overall, but we should pick areas where we are best positioned for international environmental contribution and value creation. In our roadmap, we made an analysis that showed which area that could be. Some value chains where Norwegian businesses have essential experience and advantages, and where the possibilities for export are great. Finland and Norway have several of these areas in common, like hydrogen and battery production, to name a few important examples. The Arctic unites us. With our geographical position, we know the importance of sustainable development. There are great possibilities for cooperation between our two countries, between businesses, authorities and organizations. Today's webinar is a great example. And Arctic Frontiers work to couple businesses with academia and decision makers is a great example of how we should do more of the years to come. There is also a big potential for further cooperation between the Nordic countries, also far away from here. We should work closer together to promote our businesses, our climate solutions, and our work culture abroad. Maybe we should have a joint Nordic strategy for export. The Nordic countries can be synonymous with good quality and climate-friendly solutions around the world. NHO would very much like to work towards that together with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Managing Director Ole-Erik Almlid. As Ole-Erik Almlid said, in the future, businesses and jobs are going to be greener, more digital, and more international. And this is a great bridge to our first thematic session, focusing on circular economy and batteries. Electrification of the transport sector and renewable energy production are seen as keys to slow down the global climate crisis. According to a scenario report prepared by the International Energy Agency, the numbers of electric vehicles are expected to boom to 116 million in 2030. That is nearly 70 times as high as the 2020 estimated sales of electric vehicles. And now we're only talking about a time span of 10 years. In this session, we are joined by two industry leaders who represent frontrunners in circular economy and battery development. Our first speaker is Jan Gabor, Vice President of Property Development at Mo Industrial Park in northern Norway, which is a property and infrastructure company. Mo Industrial Park hosts over 100 companies with 2,600 employees within metal and process industry. He also leads the industry park's sustainability program, which aims to develop a world-class green industry park. Jan Gabor has worked within leading positions in construction and industry for more than 25 years. Jan, we are very pleased to have you with us today. Welcome. The screen is yours.
Thank you so much, dear Excellencies, Embassy of Finland and Arctic Frontiers. Thank you so much for the invitation to talk about Mo Industrial Park. I will show you some slides that represents one of our major initiatives regarding circular economy and also battery cell production. When it comes to circular economy, we have had a program called MIP Sustainability going on for the last 6 years. And this has brought us to some very exciting initiatives regarding CCUS, which has had a lot of attention last few years. We are in an agreement with Celsa Nordic and Statkraft, aiming for producing up to 300 megawatt of hydrogen in Mo Industrial Park. The first 40 megawatts is for industrial use at Celsa. Also, we are cooperating with Elkem. They are working on a feasibility study for carbon capture. And we have a cooperation with Swiss Liquid Future and ThyssenKrupp in order to produce methanol or e-fuel, which could be blended into gasoline and reduce climate gas emissions. Also, proteins actually for fish food is a relevant product when you combine CO2 with hydrogen in a CCUS concept. And as we know, the fresh report from International Energy Agency and Fatih Birol, they are focusing on CCUS as maybe the most important technologies in order to reach the goals for climate gas reductions for 2030 and 2050. And this is one of our major issues when it comes to carbon capture, utilization, and storage. I think we need to see these technologies both separately but also jointly. Carbon capture is the technology which can be used for all companies in the Nordic and Europe and the world. And then we need the utilization to create solutions for everyone, and the storage for the large consumption of producers of CO2. Also, we are focusing on batteries. We have a company called Freyr aiming for establishing a large giga factory when it comes to battery cell production. Also, they are planning for a wind park, 6 megawatt capacity. It is a 3-step program aiming for a pilot factory for 300 megawatt battery cell production or capacity, and you have a fast track up to 25 gigawatt hours, and also the large gigafactory of 32 gigawatt hours. And then just a couple of days ago, they announced a technology partner with a new agreement called American company called 24M, which is a future-based technology supplier of battery cell production. And this is a picture where they are planning to start the first fast-track factory within Mo Industrial Park. We have worked with Nordic initiatives for many years. We have Midscandia also cooperating with the Kvarken Council. We have been a part of the project Arctic Investment Platform, and we are a part of ECIEI Alliance, the Industrial Circular Economy Investment Alliance. So we are well positioned in order to cooperate with other companies in the Nordics. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jan. That was an excellent overview. Now, thinking about the Arctic and heavy industry, that's a perception that doesn't always go hand in hand if we especially think about how the Arctic is perceived from the outside. But which competitive advantages do you see that industry in the Arctic actually has?
The culture is very important. The fact that we have been used to living of our natural resources, I think puts us in a place where we are always focused on how to utilize our natural resources as best. So when it comes to doing the future industries in the Arctic areas, I think that's a perfect match, because that is the area where you can develop the most sustainable industry, green industry for the future, with that culture in all the inhabitants.
Thank you, Jan. Now, moving forward, our next speaker represents Fortum, a company who admits being strong advocates for ambitious climate policies, as well as vigorous Nordic cooperation. They offer solutions within energy, electricity, heating and cooling, as well as solutions to improve resource efficiency. With us today, we have Tero Hollander, who leads Fortum's efforts in building up new battery-related businesses. Tero has over 20 years of experience in the field of international business development. Tero, you will be joining us today from Helsinki. Warmly welcome. The screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Minister Skinnari, Ambassador, and the delegates. Thanks for the opportunity to come and share what we are doing currently in Fortum. And I will have the show on in a minute. Okay, very good. Very good. So thanks for the opportunity to share where we are today and what we are working with, for example. And as you know, or might know, Fortum acquired Uniper German utility company during this year. And today we are some 19,000 people working around the globe and have activities in 40 different countries. And in addition to this energy generation, we want to be also a forerunner in the circular economy solutions, which I will tell you more a bit later. So this is how it looks today. So now after Uniper acquisition, we are actually rather also Central European and working around the Baltic Sea. And this acquisition brought us some 60% more capacity on CO2-free energy generation. And we see that the electrification overall and the renewable energy generation creates massive opportunities for the utility industry and also for the Nordic industry. And happy to see that we all are working with the batteries and also hydrogen-related solution, hydrogen generation, and also the carbon capture and what it enables. So Fortum wants to be a forerunner on technologies, and as this is not the individual sport, so we want to create teams and join everybody to join us on this journey. So what we do in Norway currently, as was mentioned earlier, so we are experimenting with this CCS, so carbon capture and storage in Oslo with our power plant over there. So the goal is to capture significant amount of CO2 and then store it permanently under North Sea bed. Then that is one way. The other way, which is very interesting, is also what was presented also by on the previous presentation, is this carbon capture and utilization of it as a kind of feedstock for the industry. And we can create raw material for the chemical industry, for example, by combining CO2 from the waste to energy and with the hydrogen generation from renewable energy. And this is very interesting field and might be somewhat disruptive as well. Then what comes to the batteries, so we see that the batteries will change the utility companies forever and the energy business as overall. So the climate needs these CO2 neutral solutions, and there of course the mobility is the big factor and the increase of the electric mobility, and then the renewable energy is demanded to solve the climate crisis. What Fortum can offer and what we are working with currently is that we have several digital platforms that we can utilize in connection with the batteries in our business and of course together with our customers. So we are largest charging network provider in the Nordics through this charge and drive, and then also in Europe we have I think the largest network of EV charging points through our plug surfing platform. Then we are combining also the renewable energy plants like hydro plants with the battery technology to make them even more efficient. And then what is in the middle is the recycling of the battery materials, and our target is to not to compete with the mining sector, but more or less supplement the growing need of the raw materials by bringing recycled sustainable raw materials to the market. So the technology what we have selected and what we are developing further is that we want to be, as the market demands, the low as possible on CO2. So all the technologies we take must commit to that. So Fortum we are the collector of the batteries on the market. We are doing the dismantling, and then we are also analyzing the cells and seeing that if they could be used on the second life, especially on the energy storages, because we are also large user of the energy storage on our own business only. Then Fortum is also developing a mechanical processing. We have currently ability on this one, but there will be a totally new mechanical processing plant with our own IP soon in operation. Then we have also invested on the hydrometallurgical process in Finland this year, and we are developing this further. We have ongoing actions to build a larger material recycling plant to west coast of Finland, which then can provide nickel, cobalt, manganese, and later also lithium products to the battery industry. Why not also in Norway? Okay. Thank you. This was from Fortum.
Thank you, Tero. So that batteries are definitely quite high on the agenda in the Nordics. What we currently see that there are at least 3 battery cell factories in the pipeline. We heard about Freyr from Jan. You have your operations in Harjavalta in Finland. Then there is this large Northvolt project in Skellefteå. Is there room for them all, or are we actually competing against one another?
I think we are not competing with each other. I can see that there is a tremendous need for the batteries upcoming, and I think there is around 20 gigafactory projects currently on different phases in Europe, and then these are all needed. So are actually the demand for the raw material is growing substantially in coming 5 years already. For example, need for the lithium will be 3-4 times more in 5 years' time. So I think this is very networked industry, and there are long value chains, and I think actually that we can really benefit from the cooperation with the Norwegian companies, and we can help each other, like we providing, for example, sustainable raw materials for the Norwegian battery industry and so on.
So actually we can benefit from collaboration.
Definitely.
To those following us today, I would like to remind you that there is an opportunity to pose questions to our speakers. You can send your questions to mari@arcticfrontiers.com, and we will take them up with our speakers. Now, what we see, one of the potential conflicts related to green economy and electrification has to do with the mineral exploration and land use conflicts, especially in the Nordics with reindeer herding. Will circular economy provide some kind of a relief to these difficult discussions? And how can we work around to solve these conflicts?
Well, I think, as said, the recycling cannot solve the total material need for the electrification. I think we are maybe able to provide as 7 to 10% of the need. So to make electrification happen, we need the mining sector as well. But of course, we should work towards making mining and refining of the metals more sustainable, and I think what Jan also presented over here with the use of hydrogen, for example, on the refining side, and then Fortum can offer, for example, different type of mining water purification solutions for the industry. So we can co-live and make the electrification more sustainable together.
Jan, you work in the Arctic. How do you work around these issues?
Well, we are in a position where there are 2 major issues in Norway. One is the reduction of the climate gases, and the other is to create new jobs, because in the future, when we have fewer jobs from oil and gas industries, we need to create new values. And electrification is a huge part of that in all senses. And electrification is also a question about access to renewable power. Either it's hydropower, it's wind power, solar power, and surely hydropower and wind power is the most mature and relevant for the Nordics. Most of you know about the sun conditions up here. So we are trying to communicate what kind of renewable power needs we need in the future, how this is going to be produced, and where it is going to be produced. And I saw just the other day an interesting suggestion from World Wildlife Fund how to prioritize areas for example, wind parks. land-based, which are the most mature technologies. And basically, when you can do that in cooperation with the local authorities and local people, you need to see on what kind of ripple effects. You need to do it where there is already industry, so that you can use the power produced in the area for new ripple effects close to where the industry is. So it's a lot about communication and not at least a respect for each other's opinions.
Thank you. So about ripple effects, proximity to existing industry, and also good communication. Those sound like 3 good tools. Now, speaking of WWF, which you mentioned, we have received a question from Jan Dusik, who is a lead specialist in sustainable development for the WWF Arctic program. Jan's question is, Russia recently adopted a new Arctic development and security strategy, which is full of new projects for Arctic exploration, which might have heavy impact for the Arctic environment and climate. Are you not afraid that these industrial and extractive projects will defeat the efforts for sustainable Arctic business from the Nordic countries?
Well, this calls for cooperation, which would start, I think, with the Nordic countries. If we can, for example, we have been discussing battery initiatives, and I know that the people behind Freyr have been launching idea about the Nordic, or several have been talking about the Nordic battery belt. If we, in a Nordic cooperation, could show Europe and the world where it is most sustainable to produce the future energy solutions regarding batteries, I think Europe will see that, or they will prefer to buy from the countries that can demonstrate the sustainable solutions for the future.
Yeah, I also share Jan's opinion and building on that. So I mean, the Nordic countries are, I think we have the world's largest concentration of the CO2-free energy generation, and then we also have a large, let's say resources on the battery raw materials. So definitely, I mean, the Nordics can raise and should raise their profile as a sustainable battery material and battery producer as an area, and market that to other countries as well.
Ole Erik Almli, the managing director of the Norwegian Confederation of Enterprise, in his speech, he mentioned that we should actually work for a joint Nordic export strategy. Do you think that he's up to something with that proposal? Is there a need for one?
I believe in cooperation. As said, I mean, this is definitely not an individual sport. So Finland with the raw materials, sustainable raw material resources, Norway with we can see, I mean, good environment for the battery cell investments and strong project leading capabilities. So definitely, I think we should work together towards the global brands and the users what comes on the batteries, and create a kind of unified Nordic sustainable batteries brand for it.
Jan, do you want to jump in here?
Yes, I would love to. Absolutely. I think that especially these days, when we have issues that we haven't had since the Vikings visited each other in the Nordics, we have issues regarding restrictions to visit each other, and that is a very unpleasant situation. But with that in mind, thinking about how we can continue to cooperate as we always had, producing green products with green power in the Nordics, in the Arctics, as an area without borders. That would be a fantastic position, and the fact that we then would be producing the future green solutions in resource areas which are also vulnerable. We can demonstrate how to do this in the Arctic vulnerable areas. That would be, I think, a good way to show the rest of the world how future industries can develop and produce sustainable products.
I know that we have quite a few policy decision makers also listening in. What would be your request coming from the industry? What should be the first steps, and how can they facilitate in building a common Nordic Arctic brand or export strategy?
Do you want to start, Jan, or shall I?
Yes, I can start. It seems like a lot of the politics are still linear in their way of thinking and way of acting. So there are a lot of systems that are not up to date when it comes to promote circular solutions. For instance, how to present methanol as an e-fuel blending into gasoline. It is up to the market and the companies to demonstrate, for example, life cycle analysis. When are this project sustainable enough? And this should be programs initiated from the governments to identify which product is sustainable, and then give the market incentives to actually install mature technologies and to produce these products. Because when we are following the old linear thinking, we are lagging behind, and it takes too long to be in forefront of developing the new green technologies. And given the fact that if we could develop a common export strategy, I mean, Europe and the world is a huge market, and it's even too huge for the Nordic countries together. So we will have everything to benefit from creating new products, new export strategies, and also to give governmental incentives pointing out which directions, which products for the companies to focus their efforts in.
So should there be joint governmental incentives or joint governmental priorities across the Nordics?
There are sisters and brothers up here, so of course we should have common interests.
I think we should influence together also. I mean, there are European level programs like IPCEI, for example, and which we are also part of. But anyway, similar kind of Nordic countries together working towards the, let's say, European Union, for example, to see that the investment should be also coming to the areas where we can really make a sustainable products and the processes, and that's one definitely. And then also I think it's good to understand that this is a massive new industry arising around the world, and it's a heavy competition from the investments, and it's no way time to sit on the and watch how things are happening, because the things are happening right now. So also the politicians should understand that we need to act now, not think how to act next year. So here this one, and then also we need a kind of let's say equal play field, especially on the circular economy. There are so many. I mean, we might even have a common laws and common directives on the area, but still the interpretations and how these are supervised and acts are taken in force, they vary country by country, and by all means we should try to make the play field on common regulation areas more equal.
How can the businesses get better in terms of informing the decision makers about the hinders that they face in cross-border trade?
We are working hard, at least on the recycling point of view. So we are having a good dialogue with the authorities on the issues with the batteries, and there is a battery directive and legislation under process on European Union, and we hope, of course, that will bring some clarity to the situation even during this year. So far, we don't know when it will come out, but the lithium batteries as such are so new item that and it's developing so fast that the legislations have hard time stay on same pace. So maybe that is the regards that the as said things develop nowadays and in lithium-ion batteries very fast.
Mm-hmm. Jan, do you want to offer some concluding remarks before we move forward?
Thank you. Yes, I also believe that the large companies now and the large investment organizations that are promoting the new industries should be well coordinated in their communication with the governments. I think the Nordic governments have overall the same ambitions when it comes to future greenhouse emissions and reductions. But they could learn from each other how to promote that. And I think the businesses, the front runners, they know these issues because they are working across boundaries already, across borders. So I think if the large companies and the front runners could communicate the most important issues across borders, for instance, in Norway, we do not have a mature funding system when it comes to CCU. We only have the CCS. And that gives us a disadvantage for other countries that actually has a CCUS policy. And when it comes to technology development, that has been done across borders. So therefore, I think we should have overall politics that are linear or at least aligned.
Excellent. That was a wonderful wrap up, Jan. You kind of took my job. But what we gather from this discussion is that, yes, there is great potential for collaboration, interest on the business side for a joint export strategy and profiling the Nordic region as one joint region, and that we need to have the large companies as locomotives. Now, going forward, I am pleased to provide the viewers a practical example of building bridges, an example of cross-border business development on regional level. Our next speaker is the mayor of the town of Vaasa, a town of some 70,000 inhabitants on the west coast of Finland. Thomas Hauru has been the mayor since 2011. Today, he is with us not only as a mayor, but also in his capacity as a representative of the Vaasa Energy Cluster, the largest energy technology cluster in the Nordic countries. Mayor Hauru will briefly discuss their work in building bridges within the Nordic region, and he will also provide an example on how to build regional business collaboration across the borders. The mayor will join us through a video greeting. Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Thomas Hauru.
Mina damer och herrar, excellenser, jättetrevligt att få delta i ett seminarium idag. Jag för med mig hälsningar från Vaasa och det här Nordens största energiteknologikluster, Energy Vaasa. Mitt namn är Thomas Hauru och jag jobbar som stadsdirektör här tillsammans med den här organisationen och med många fina företag som kan hjälpa till att bygga broar i Norden i framtiden. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I'll speak in English. It's an honor to be part through this video in your seminar today. And building bridges in the Nordic countries is something that we have been doing for a long time in Vaasa, together with Umeå in Sweden, and also very much together with Nordland Fylke and Mo i Rana in Norway. We have been working on developing a logistical corridor between E12 that could connect Mo i Rana to Umeå, and through the ferry connection between Vaasa and Umeå up to Vaasa, and then onwards, eastwards and southwards. Energy Vaasa today is a quite exceptional energy technology cluster in the Nordic and also in the European scale, and I hope that you take the possibility to get acquainted to it a little bit more. We are already, as up to now, doing a lot of business and having a lot of good opportunities in Norway. We have great companies. Today was announced a big deal between Hitachi, ABB power grids, and Thun, who is building the first totally green transformer in Trondheim. But we have also companies like Veo, who has been doing a lot of business in Norway and a lot of electrification. In a few words, if I put together what Energy Vaasa is about, it's around a little over 160 companies that have a turnover over 5 billion euros every year, and almost everything goes on export. Over 80% of what we are doing here is going on export. So you can find actually energy technology from the Vaasa energy cluster in every country in the world. And we are now emphasizing the importance of looking into and cooperating with battery storage operators, because in the coming world and in the coming markets, system-level solutions in the field of energy are those who will win the big tenders. And for example, in Vaasa, 7 of our biggest companies, we have Wärtsilä, ABB, Hitachi ABB Power Grids, Danfoss, Veo, and a few others have made a contract about how they together will build the systemic energy solutions of tomorrow. I think it's very important for us in the Nordic countries to take care of the possibilities we have in dealing together. And for example, when we have very tight relations with Mo i Rana, we see that we always build the ecosystem and our doings on how we can together thrive and how we can make win-win solutions for all partners. I think that these few words just give you a short introduction of what we are doing in Vaasa, and I hope that you take the possibility to know more in www.energyvaasa.fi. Mange tack för er uppmärksamhet. Jag hoppas att ni tar kontakt och det här, vi kan sen koppla ihop er med den fantastiska energiteknologikunskap och de fantastiska företag vi har här i regionen som kan föra både Vaasa, Finland och Norge vidare ut i Europa och ut i världen på ett helt annat sätt. Tusen tack och ha ett bra seminarium.
Thank you, Mayor. I do hope that you pick on the Mayor's generous opportunity for collaboration. Now, moving on to our second theme, focusing on green hydrogen. The Nordic countries have publicly announced their ambitious national goals of becoming carbon neutral. Finland by 2035, Norway, Denmark by 2050. In order to make that happen, we need to replace fossil fuels used in homes, transport, and industry with carbon-free alternatives. That means that we would have to increase our current electricity production rates by 75% to meet the additional demand for power. But in addition, we need to decarbonize heavy transport, including shipping. The positive news is that building future solutions, the work on that is already underway. I am very pleased to be able to present and introduce a dynamic example of new development and perhaps of unexpected collaboration. We will be discussing of green hydrogen development in Finnmark in northern Norway, paired with cross-sector, cross-border industrial development project. Our first speaker is Darja Skansen, who represents Varanger Kraft, an energy company owned by 6 municipalities in the high north of Norway. They produce, transfer, and sell energy, but they also have an industrial adventure underway with Raggovidda Wind Park and production of green hydrogen. CEO Terje Skansen is a seasoned industry leader with diverse background and competence. And if you do what I've been doing these past few evenings, meaning Googling him, you will find that one of the words that is often used to describe him is innovative. Terje, we look very much forward to hearing more of Varanger Kraft's groundbreaking work within the development of green hydrogen and ammonia. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Minister, Ambassador, speakers, thank you very much for the invitation. And how do you say it in Finnish? Kiitos kutsusta or something, isn't it? What I will talk about is, as Anu mentioned, the start of a possible and hopefully industrial adventure in our region. We are talking about a small community called Berlevåg, which is in the very, very northern part of not only Norway and Europe, but of the world. It's located between 70 and 71 degrees north. And I will talk about the part of, this is a part of a new roadmap, or actually maybe CMAP of hydrogen in Norway. Everything started with, let me say, a question how to utilize this stranded wind power in our region. We have extremely good conditions when it comes to wind, and that is maybe the most important resource we have in the region, beside the sea, of course, and the fish. But the grid capacity prevents us from distributing the power directly to the grid. So we have to store the power, and I'm not talking about batteries now, but we have to store it in other ways. In 2018, we applied for an R&D EU project under the Horizon 2020, and the project was how to utilize the stranded wind power by producing hydrogen, store it, and from there lead the power back to the grid when it's no wind. And believe me, it happens sometimes that there's no wind in this area. In March 2021, that is in 4 months, we will open our new small test plant and will produce our first tons of green hydrogen. And we already sold it. I think they want to use it in Longyearbyen first to make the airport more green. During this period from 2018, when we started this project, we opened the possibility to do scale production of hydrogen and carry it with ammonia, via ammonia. So Varanger Kraft, and we went into a tight cooperation with the Finnish Wärtsilä and the Norwegian Grieg and 5 more industrial companies to establish a value chain of continuous green energy projects. The aim of the value chain is primarily to supply the ship fleet along the coastline. And I think Wärtsilä Kato will probably mention what their role is in this, but it's to rebuild the engines from fossil powered fuel to green ammonia powered fuel. Another aim is to supply Longyearbyen, Svalbard, the Arctic island far up from the main country of Norway, with green ammonia for substituting the coal power plant with a renewable power station. In fact, the major in Longyearbyen proclaimed their replacement already in 2023. I hope that can be realized. But we already made a contract to supply them with the green ammonia. Or with hydrogen, sorry. The green ammonia will be transported to Svalbard from Berlevåg in ammonia tanker powered by ammonia. Grieg Star will be the distributor. So as you can see, a complete green value chain producing, distributing and utilizing sustainable carbon-free green fuel. What will be the price of this product? That's been a question for a long time. Is it too expensive to use green ammonia? But according to Nel, the electrolyzer producer, the estimated price of green ammonia will be equal to the price of grey ammonia. And the grey ammonia, that is produced from natural gas. The prices will be equal as early as in 2025, when we see the really big and scale production of the green ammonia. The CO2 emission reduction, the figures has not yet been exactly calculated, but the Svalbard case alone will reduce the emission with more than 100,000 tons CO2 per year. So that is huge. When it comes to cooperation between Norway and Finland, we are located a few kilometers from the Finnish border, and in our region we actually have a Finnish border. In the southern part of Norway, Sweden between. So we have both doing business and cultural exchange for many years here. The power exchange between Norway and Finland is not significant, and that is also the grid is interconnected at several points along the border in the Tana Valley. But the grid capacity does not allow large amounts of electricity to flow between us. That's pity. I have to state that the electricity is very cheap in the northern part of Norway because it's bottlenecks which exist between northern Norway and southern Norway. So we have large amounts of renewable energy which could be exported to Finland. But the grid capacity in Finland is also a challenge. I know that there has been several meetings between Statnett in Norway and Fingrid in Finland concerning making a possible Nordic ring that is grid, but they haven't agreed yet, unfortunately. My reverent assertion is that if in the future there is an ambition to exchange scale electricity between our two countries, there has to be focus on the grid capacity, both in the northern part of Norway and the interconnection and in the northern part of Finland, because the grid is too weak today.
Thank you, Terje. I think that is a great message to the policy decision makers that are listening in, and a very concrete measure on how we can facilitate business development moving forward. Now I would like to introduce our second speaker, Cato Espero, who represents an industry leader in development of products and solutions for marine, oil and gas, as well as energy markets. He is head of sales at Wärtsilä Norway, leads a team of sales professionals covering new product sales, business development, and service sales. And he has more than 20 years of experience from various roles and positions in the maritime industry. Cato, welcome. The screen is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all for letting me share what we in Wärtsilä are focusing on, and also how we, together with other technology companies, collaborate and build bridges towards the green economy. For us in Wärtsilä, our purpose defines and drives our direction. And to do this, we invite stakeholders to be part of making the purpose come alive and put into action. As a technology company, we produce products and solutions from the propeller, power and energy systems to the navigation and positioning systems of the ship. This allows us to look at ship as a total solution, and it also allows us to continuously to optimize the efficiency on the product side. The world is in transformation, and we see there are three key ingredients of industry transformation that help us achieve sustainable societies. Striving towards a clean environment, finding an intelligent way of producing and using energy, and not at least shaping the market by being in the forefront of developing new technology and new business models and industry collaborations. During the fall of 2018, we initiated a collaboration project today known as SEEDS. This is a concrete example capturing the three already mentioned key elements, where we strive towards a clean environment and zero emission shipping. We try to find an intelligent way of producing and using clean energy. And not at least, we are shaping a new market, and by this being in the forefront of developing new technology and also new business models. Here we see 6 leading Nordic companies that started a journey to find the fastest route to zero emission shipping. This was a challenge and a challenging process actually for all of us. We are different companies with different cultures, and not at least we also have different ways of doing innovation. And we were doing business in different parts of the value chain. We actually managed to create our own creative process, and we learned fast that if we should succeed, we all needed to be generous with each other and listen and of course share our knowledge. That was key ingredients. Here you see the new infrastructure, more or less in a nutshell. We have green fuel produced, stored and distributed offshore. The cool stuff here is that the technology is already here. It's just used today in other ways or for other purposes. And currently, right now, the partners in Seeds are working to commercialize important elements of this infrastructure. The learning from Seeds for other companies we already see have helped us to also generate new strategic directions. Looking at this infrastructure, as you can see on the screen, a small fun fact: one of these hubs to the left, supported by windmills, can produce the annual need of green fuel for approximately 150 ships of the North Sea type of fish, and by this eliminating about 1 million tons of CO2. We launched the Seed concept, and this got a lot of attention. We also were reached out from the politician side. So the Nordic Council of Ministers reached out to us, and they are now supporting the project with funding, something that is very much appreciated by all of us. Norwegian politicians and parliament members also reached out and asked us, as already mentioned a little bit by Terje, can the Seeds concept be used at Svalbard? And this is now how we see the Seeds group companies have grown, and now included Varanger Kraft, Statkraft, Statnett, and Store Norske. In addition to this, also a fantastic group of ship-owning companies have joined into the system or into the group. We are now working concretely with creating a complete green infrastructure from offshore, from onshore, where we also using renewable wind. As mentioned by Terje, wind produced wind from Ragovido, ammonia production in Berlevåg, green distribution to Svalbard, and then as next phase, green power generation in Longyearbyen community. We also know there is a lot of similar Arctic communities that could take part in the same value chain. So to sum it all up, we see a lot of good things happening. We already share knowledge, and we see clearly that Nordic technology, Nordic partnerships combined with the Nordic trust will generate new types of green ecosystems and business models that can be scaled and exported around the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Cato. That was a fascinating story of how cross-sectoral collaboration can happen and take place. But would you be able to sum up a few success factors or success criteria for what led you to where you are today?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it a little bit. You know, we needed. We actually agreed on a problem, a common problem, or a common issue, and we agreed that we're going to solve this. We need to put our strategies or principles aside. We have to all work on the same problem, and I think managing that and building a trust, through the process for a common good thing was essential, and having companies complementing each other in the whole value stream, of course, helps out in putting that a situation or creating a situation like that.
So the 6 companies that you mentioned represent quite large stakeholders in the Nordic, and now you are collaborating with Varanger Kraft. How did that happen?
I think actually that's also a very nice story, because we, when we started with our project, looking at the marine side, we did not know that Terje were working on the same thing up in Berlevåg. We had no clue about that, and actually it was politicians, Liv Kari Eskeland, that brought us together. So they helped us meet up, and here we also met Terje and his team, which was a fantastic addition to what we started. So yeah, I don't know if you want to add something, Terje, to that.
No, thank you very much, Cato. When Anu asked about the success criteria, so I can see especially 2 things here, and that is first of all, we have to follow what is happening globally, and we have to believe that there is a green transition, and that we really have problems on the planet Earth for the future, and that is one thing, to accept that. And the other thing is the willingness to do something, both from the market and from the government, and it's very nice to see. And I think Cato can confirm that the market is very willing to cooperate together with us, because as I understand, he is smiling there in Stord now, Cato, but as I understand, there's already made kind of contracts for the future for 2024, 2025. So I think we are ready. It's up to us now how to start to produce the green energy, the green fuel, and we see that the willingness is great, both from the market and from the government. I had a meeting about this with the Norwegian Prime Minister and the Oil and Energy Minister 2 days ago, and they applaud it. They applaud this kind of initiative that's going on along the Norwegian coast.
So there is room for politicians also in this equation, at least as a matchmaker for business stakeholders. But I also hear you say that it is important to be aware of the other initiatives that are ongoing between businesses. Now, we have received a question from Yue Wang, Arctic Center and Faculty of Social Sciences, University of Lapland. Do non-Arctic actors' participation, such as Chinese, play a part in the green transition process in the Arctic? And if so, what kind of role can these non-Arctic actors play here? Are there room for other stakeholders, those coming from outside the Arctic?
Yeah, I can answer that. The future need for green hydrogen and green ammonia, if we're talking about that, is hundreds of millions of tons. There is no competition today when we're talking about this. Our initiative maybe will maximum produce between 200 and 300,000 tons, and we're talking about hundreds of millions of tons. But of course, it also depends on the availability of green electrical power, so solar or wind power or hydro power. So in our area, we are very lucky to have this. But of course, it will be room for many, especially investors. I think that's a joke, but this is a global challenge. This is not a local or district challenge for the Arctic region. But of course, it's the Arctic region. Of course, suffer. We take Svalbard as an example. The rise of the temperature the last years has been 4.5 degrees Celsius. So something has to be done, and that is also very nice that we can start locally in Longyearbyen and Svalbard with this initiative. But the rest of the world is dependent on the Arctic area, and the Arctic area is dependent on the world. Is only the world. So we have to cooperate. So it's place for and it's room for everyone to join.
Kato, do you agree?
Yes, I agree. And talking numbers, and I think already mentioned earlier today. It's a huge transaction or transformation we are in. And just to give some figures, today, if you look at shipping, we are using approximately 1 million tons of diesel or HFO every day. And if you're going to convert this into, and we know what kind of infrastructures we have for supplying this type of fuel. If you're going to switch this over to a green fuel, for instance, green ammonia as an example, you need 2.3 million tons every day. So of course there's a huge market, and I think what's unique here with the technology that we have in the Nordic is that we could actually play a very important role, putting this transaction in motion around the world. So definitely there's room for a lot of players, and there's a lot of opportunities for societies, I think, like Berlevåg, which have these type of resources available to be part of this kind of transformation.
So is there actually a competitive advantage of coming from the Arctic?
Well, I think if I can say a little bit, I think we have, there's a high degree of trust and very similar culture up here in the Nordics, and we interact and we collaborate in a very unique way. We create this kind of trust, and that's what's needed. So I think there's a foundation, there's a high education, there's a lot of knowledge about this, and of course a lot of international experience. We have been Vikings, and we have been seafarers, and we have exported products and solutions around the world for many, many years. So of course we have a very good foundation for this.
But Terje, the situation that you described with weak grid, somewhat lack of infrastructure, that is not unique if you think about the Arctic in a pan-Arctic scale. Is this something, and I'm talking about the green hydrogen, production of green hydrogen, and the project that you're working with, is this something that could be scalable to other parts of the Arctic?
Yes, of course. When I mentioned the problems or the challenge with the grid capacity, let's say it's simple. We can supply, for example, the rest of the Arctic areas with extremely good wind conditions. We are talking about the toughest climate in Europe. That's along the northern Norwegian coast. We can supply, for example, Finland with cheap electrical power, but we have to have a grid so we can send the electrical power down. So you can produce green ammonia and green hydrogen wherever you want in the Finnish forest, even in the forest near Ivalo, if you have electricity, and cheap electricity and green electricity at least. And we can supply that, but we don't have the grid. So that's a simple question to that.
You truly are an optimist when you describe the conditions in Finnmark as extreme good wind conditions. I know that a lot of people might have characterized the weather somewhat differently. Now, in order to wrap up this discussion, picking up on what we discussed earlier, the potential for collaboration, and it seems like you both open up for that also across the borders and globally. Is there any specific type of competence that you are looking for?
I didn't really understand the question. The competence in for what?
What kind of stakeholders could have a place in the collaboration or in the industrial adventure that you are building? Is there demand for a specific sector type of a competence?
If I can say just one small comment to it, I think we are entering into a shift, and one thing that we have seen early is that a lot of the technology, in a way, that we need in the future is already here. You just need to put it together in a new way. And of course, if you look at most of the companies in the Seeds coalition are big companies. I think, and we maybe are a little bit. We have the opportunity to look a little bit more ahead and resources to do that. And I think it's a great opportunity also for smaller and mid-sized companies, to come in and join us because they also will be important contributors, and they would have technology that we maybe do not know anything about. So we are inviting in, companies to please see what we are doing and please provide your insights. I think that's the major learning we have got from Seeds is that, separately, all these big companies, big or small companies, actually separately by ourselves, we could not come up with a solution like this. We needed actually to get these companies to sit down and really push on a common problem, and that's how we got out the solution. And I think also that's how we will see it further develop. And there's a lot of technology that we don't know anything about, and maybe we could give some insights that could help them tune existing technology and from there develop new.
That's an excellent note for concluding this discussion. There is room for collaboration and the stakeholders are open for others to join them. Now, to provide us with concluding remarks on today's webinar, I am pleased to invite Senior Advisor Ingrid Dahl Skarstein from Innovation Norway Arctic to join us today. She has strong background in international business and trade promotion. Before she joined Innovation Norway Arctic in 2018, she worked in Moscow for the Norwegian Seafood Council. Ingrid, happy to have you with us today. Welcome. The screen is yours.
Thank you, Anu. Minister, Ambassador, delegates. I would like to start by thanking all of the speakers today. Thank you for very interesting speeches representing this innovative and important and upcoming industry in our two countries, and also very, very important solutions for the green shift. I also would like to thank the Embassy of Finland and Arctic Frontiers in planning, organizing and hosting this event together with us. Thank you for this joint initiative. It's very important. And I've been given the honor of giving some concluding remarks on this webinar. And in planning and discussing before this event, we have discussed how small countries, both Norway and Finland, are in a global context, and also how different we are. And still, we see that Norway and Finland, we are examples of leading countries in the global transition towards renewable energy. Norway is leading the global energy transition, and so is Finland in developing cutting-edge, world-class technology. Examples have been here today from the circular economy, which is very important. And the speeches today show joint motivation and also some ongoing, very important joint projects. And many of you have touched into today that in order to be attractive for foreign investment, a new establishment, new international establishment in our region, we need to work even closer together. Because it's when we can show this joint competitive advantage, we can also show that this is a very unique and favorable investment area. And an investment on one side of the border will, of course, benefit both sides of the border and enable new growth. And working here in the Arctic, we are very conscious on our responsibility in developing new sustainable industry. And we are also very conscious on our competitive advantages. We believe that many of the solutions for the global challenges can be found in the Arctic. And we believe that the extreme conditions should be used as drivers for innovation, and that the extreme conditions and solutions to these can be also used as solutions other places in the world with less harsh climate. So the Arctic represents enormous opportunities. We are rich in natural resources, and we have many suitable areas. We have favorable climate conditions, we have skilled labor, high education, renewable natural resources, we have minerals. You have talked about high trust, democracy, reliability, good living conditions. And in sum, this make up a very favorable and interesting and attractive investment climate. And one aim of this event is, of course, more cooperation. We have a strong history in working together in promoting the Nordic together abroad, and we should do the same in promoting the Arctic together abroad. Also because we have some of the same challenges. We have, of course, the challenge in moving from non-renewable energy source is a global challenge, but in Norway, Arctic, and Finland, Arctic, we have the same challenge in that we need to attract and establish new industry. We need to create new jobs. We have a strong history in working together in power and mineral, and now we can use this unique opportunity also in creating a new industry together in storing energy. There's a big potential in creating full value chains for hydrogen production and battery production in our joint region. And especially when it comes to hydrogen production, this is what we can call a chicken and egg dilemma, because you need the market. And here we see that the governments can play a very important role. The governments can use their buying power and their regulatory power. We see one example of this in Nordland County now, where the government has said that the tender for new ferries is going to focus on hydrogen technology. So the government can play a very important role in creating the need for new energy solutions. And with this, I would like to thank you again. Thank you thank you to the speakers, and also thank you for all listening in today on this webinar.
Thank you very much, Ingrid. We are about to wrap up our sending, which is actually a joint collaboration. Also geographically, we have people joining us from Finnmark, the top of Norway, Tromsø, west coast of Norway, Oslo, Helsinki, and Vasa. Thank you to our collaboration partners. Thank you to all of those who joined us. Stay tuned for more discussions. The Arctic Frontiers is happy to facilitate Arctic promotion also globally, and we will be back at the latest in February 2021. Thank you and have a great day.